Kibaki was then governor for Kenya in the World Bank, and Duncan Ndegwa was governor for Kenya in the IMF. So obviously Kibinge, our ambassador in Washington, D.C., had already told Kibaki and Governor Ndegwa that you have a Kenyan who is in the executive board of the International Monetary Fund. Why don't you want to meet him? So he organized a dinner at his residence for Kibaki and for Governor Duncan Ndegwa, and he invited me to come and meet the leaders from Kenya. That's how I now finally met Duncan Ndegwa and President Kibaki. Kibaki tried to get me to answer some questions related to economics, because he himself was an economist. And he was asking, me, how do you determine a supply curve? That's a tricky question. But lucky, I knew. It's a mathematical question. So I explained to him how quickly you determine that particular. He was very impressed. I was born at a place, it's a village called Mboni, high up on the hills, on Mboni Hills. There I was born to a gentleman called Mr. Mullei. I was happy, I was lucky to have been one of his children who were introduced to a primary school. That school was called Mutitu Primary School. It was owned by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that's where I did my primary education. And lucky for me, I was given then the opportunity to do my high school in a school in Uganda called Bugema Missionary College. I did not have clarity of view what job I think at that particular time I would seek to see, I would try to look for. But opportunities when that time came, just came out of the blues. And I was introduced to a job that I liked very much, being a salesperson for a pharmaceutical firm. At that particular time, there is no way one would think about leaving the little village to go and become a governor. But when I got the job to become a salesperson, then the horizon began to open. I did not know much of the country we call Kenya, but the job introduced me to Kenya. When the Mzungu called Mr. Curtis, who was responsible for sales representatives for the region, and he had said that I should see him at Savo Inn on my way to Mombasa. Interesting enough, but this was 1959, I was not allowed to get into Savo Inn. The white man had to come out to see me outside Savo Inn, because the segregation that particular time was real. And he gave me further instructions when I get to the coast. And from the coast in Mombasa, I would be proceeding to Arusha and on to Dar es Salaam. Then I came back. Many of my colleagues, friends, had already gotten scholarships and left for the US. And I started developing an eye to really want to also follow them. I got introduction to a guy who said, if you go to London, you might be able to get out of the embassies there a scholarship. That might give you an opportunity to go to a university in pursuing education. So I flew to London in 1961. And in London, I met a friend, a person I knew from, in Kenya, but he was working for the BBC London. When I got there, this gentleman introduced me to his own boss. And after he introduced me to Mr. Harrison, he said, if you want a job, I'll give you a job. What job is it? I asked, because I knew that I can't compete in an environment in the UK. He said, you will be broadcasting, you will be writing stories about Britain. And then you come and in the studio brought your impressions to listeners in Kiswahili, in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Southern Africa. That was exciting because that's the first time then I felt that, I've landed. In London, I was given a direct scholarship by the embassy to go to the University of Prague, but first to go to a language school. And immediately I decided to leave broadcasting and go to Prague to study economics. I learned the Czech language, Dobreden, Kamedesh, well, things like that. I learned the language very quickly. At that time, I'm communicating with cousins in the US. So he told me that there are excellent opportunities in the US. So lucky for me, I went to George Washington University. I applied, and at the grades, to be admitted, I was admitted at George Washington University. And while I was doing that, I then went to visit the Voice of America. And the Voice of America, I told them that I used to broadcast, in Swahili out of the BBC. This would be, matangazo kutoka Sauti ya Uingereza hapa London. Na mimi ni Dr. Andrew Mullei. And I'll say that I'm speaking to you from Bush House, London. When I graduated from George Washington University with my first degree, then I applied for a master's degree at Howard University, next door, also in Washington, D.C. And IMF used to send staff to various American universities to recruit the next employees of the institution. So I was interviewed while I was finishing my PhD. I was offered a job by the IMF, a technical assistant, to an executive director. While I was still there, it so happened that the UN itself was also looking for advisors to the regional cooperation in Addis Ababa. So I was quickly identified by the UN, sitting in Washington, D.C., as the person who qualified to become trade policy advisor for the United Nations in Addis Ababa. That's how I now finally met Duncan Ndegwa and President Kibaki. Kibaki was then governor for Kenya in the World Bank, and Duncan Ndegwa was governor for Kenya in the IMF. So obviously Kibinge, our ambassador in Washington, D.C., had already told Kibaki and Governor Ndegwa that you have a Kenyan who is in the exec board of the International Monetary Fund. Why don't you want to meet him? So he organized a dinner at his residence for Kibaki and for Governor Duncan Ndegwa, and he invited me to come and meet the leaders from Kenya. Kibaki tried to get me to answer some questions related to economics, because he himself was an economist. And he was asking, me, how do you determine a supply curve? That's a tricky question. But lucky, I knew how you determine that. It's a mathematical question. So I explained to him how quickly you determine that particular. He was very impressed. So he settled down, and then Governor Ndegwa, followed. What do you do exactly in International Monetary Fund? So we finished the meetings, we went for dinner, we finished the dinner. We have a problem, Duncan Ndegwa said. We have a problem. Coffee is bringing Kenya a lot of money, he said. We are receiving a lot of dollars. Kibaki is just listening. And, the IMF is telling us, that we should create an account where the money should go and not be allowed to flow through to support activities, because it will be quite inflationary. And we don't understand that. We don't understand that. We want to give people money. It has come. We want to turn the money into shillings and give it to the people, the coffee farmers, so that they can, that would be, I told him, but that would be inflationary. Duncan Ndegwa just pulled back. Yes, you don't do that. You should be able to create an account that holds the money on behalf of the owners of the money, so that you don't create inflationary conditions in your economy. So it was on a Sunday afternoon in America when a call came through. So this is Duncan Ndegwa calling. I said, oh, yes, Governor. Yes, Governor, it's me. Thank you very much for calling. I'm calling from Nairobi. And I wanted, to continue the conversation. You can come and be of help to your country. So I told the governor that I'd already decided to come and work for you and work for the president to the best of my ability, and I will be available to do that. Money is not the issue. Whatever you've decided to offer me, that would be certainly acceptable. I have no problem with that. So he said that I want to go with you to the Treasury to pay a courtesy call on the minister. We went and found Kibaki waiting. Oh, Kibaki, he was very enthusiastic when he saw me. I can't forget that look of the man. He looked very, very nice. He told me that what you'll be doing is you study the kind of monetary policy we are running, how we are running it, and you give us advice on how that monetary policy fits into the way that you think is the correct way to proceed. You look at our exchange rate, look at our interest rates, look at our lending practices, and tell us exactly what you think about all that. When I got a call from Governor Duncan Ndegwa, he was in Mombasa, and he called me and he told me that he had consulted, and they thought, he told me, they thought, we think, he didn't tell me with who, we want to offer you a job. Yeah, a job, not advisory, a job that you can grow with here. And that job is going to be advisor to the governor. But we are not going to call it advisor to the governor. We are going to call it counselor to the governor. But soon, I think it was only about 4 or 5 months later, the announcement comes on the radio. Duncan is gone. He's been now replaced. By who? By Philip Ndegwa. What is going to happen now? So we wait and Philip comes. The first thing he did, Philip, a very meticulous person, not as friendly as Governor Duncan Ndegwa, but very professional, very meticulous, looking like he knows exactly what it is that he wants, So he asked me, to write out exactly what I do as counselor to the governor. Give me as much information as you want, but, deliver it by tomorrow. I'll be waiting for a paper from you exactly what you do. The following day, I submitted to the secretary the paper for Philip Ndegwa to look at. He's now the new governor. And that new governor, he said that, look, immediately after he studied the letter, he called me, I went in, he said that, no, you are going to be our director of research here. Do you mind? Do you like to do that? I told him that, well, there's no, if that's your wish, I would certainly have got no quarrels with the name director of research as counselor to the governor. If you want me director of research, certainly I'll continue. That was Philip. Later he started to smile, but before he was really very looking tough and difficult to deal with. But once I wrote to Philip a memo after the attempted coup and what we need to do with monetary policy and fiscal policy to withstand the mess that is going to be created in terms of managing the economy, Philip sat down and began to invite me to his home. We started now identifying the competent people that would be, given the opportunity to grow. So one of them was Kinywa, and then there was Maurice Kanga. He was also another one. These were bright, really, roughly very bright kids. So to cut a long story short, now all of a sudden I hear Philip has now been moved out. To some place to go to the airport and go and manage an airline or something like that. I started thinking of a way to also get out. Governor Duncan Ndegwa was a truly institutional builder. He had qualification to really nurture an institution and to grow it. He had that capacity, and he was very good at that. I'd already left the bank. I'm already out of government, out of the central bank. I'm running my own outfit, research institution on the side, So out of nowhere, an announcement is made in the radio. It is in the evening, not at 1 o'clock, in the evening. An Ashon has been already governor for 2 years, yes, but have been appointed governor. Yes. The other person's term is not ended. It's been abrupt. It's cutting his term, by more than half. Have been appointed. So that is really the surprise, because he had to cut his term. It's already sunset. And the radio is saying Andrew Mullei has been appointed governor of the central bank. Out of nowhere. I have no connection. I don't know where that is coming from. The economic management in Kenya was already in shambles. No question about that. Government spending was completely out of order. Completely. It was just rushing out money the way one would not want to see happen. And I think it was a political mood. The country was, at that particular time, people were not happy. It was, some people were really campaigning for a new change at that particular time. I remember out of those meetings, people were just echoing the wish where we could bring back to Kenya to the rails, away from, where it was. I had to rely very much on senior managers in the central bank for institutional memory. Lucky for a person like me who had come in at the time I did, Governor Duncan Ndegwa had built the institution. It's not like him. When he came in, there was no anything like a central bank. He's the one who really put this whole thing together to become a CBK. The economy internationally was not good. It was really a very difficult environment for anybody at that particular time running a developing country. The donors were all over the place. They were demanding, revolutionary changes in the way we were running the country. I also created an ambience with the senior managers in the central bank because they had just been left by Nyaga abruptly and a new man has come. So it was incumbent upon me to create an ambience with the senior managers in the central, recognizing them, according them, the respect that is required of them, and telling them that they should help me to identify the weaknesses in the institution, and then give me some reporting on the things that they think are the weakest points of the central bank. I didn't have a problem at all, because the institution has been built. I'm not adding branches, I'm not adding anything. It's just working with the environment that I found to uplift the standards of the institution. Philip Ndegwa had asked me to give him a brief on how the central bank is organized, what it does, how it does it, and what are the weak points in that particular one. I had prepared that one for Philip Ndegwa. So I was aware of some of the weaknesses in the institution already. So the other one is the policy, the weaknesses in policy. The bank was organized well in terms of departments. I began to make sure that we have things motivating staff to do what they need to do. So it was quite an exciting moment at that particular time. And I think backwards and ask myself how it is if a country wants to really do good for its economy. It's not so difficult. It's not science that is in the Sputnik. That science is available with people to do a job that gives people employment, that gives me, enough food to eat, that gives me all they need to educate. It's not a science. It's not a rocket science. This is things that you just do with your budget and your monetary policy. And it can be done so easily. But you have to be deciding that, look, that's what you want to do. So because the experience of Kibaki, it was not a miracle. Kibaki told me that, look, you are the governor. You tell us what to do with the exchange rate, not us. We will not tell you. You yourself will tell us what it should be. And one thing that I feel very happy about is the effects started to show very quickly. This revolution of policies, just changing policies, turning them around very quickly to reflect the needs, it started to show very, very quickly. Within a year, of Kibaki's reign, it was very clear that he had already a plus in his management. So reorganization was one area of focusing. The staff may not have seen that, but we did a reorganization of the bank, looking at the qualifications of each staff member and what he had done in school and his experiences gathered while he was at the bank, and putting those directly to where they belong. That reorganization was not announced loudly to the staff, but it was being done through administrative decisions. So that if you are allocating, we change you from this position, you are put you to another position. You may not know why, but it was already a deliberate policy to put you in that place where you are best qualified to do your work. And then we introduced frequent reviews of salaries to identify the big performers. Because performance, you don't want to wait for too long. You don't want for 2 years to reward performance. Something that I found rigidity in the bank was so rigid. I could not understand where that was coming from. At our level, as directors, we are talking to one another. But you go down the hall and you see the staff running to the edge. You know why? You are all serving the same institution, serving the same purpose. Why are you becoming enemies? When you are meeting, you can't just touch one another. You can't greet. What is that? You tell me, even logically speaking, what does that say? When you are with your father and mother, you are together. Why are you here? Each one ni mkubwa, mwingine mdogo, mwingine hawezi kunikaribia, hawezi kuja kunisalimia. What are you talking about? What is it that makes you so big and so unusual, so that you have to be allowed to be the big man? That concept is an awkward concept. It's not in the Bible. It's not in the Constitution. It's just a concept that people create for themselves. We are all working for one purpose. We are in a home. And this home we are making together. There has been this thing that was created by the white settlers. The way they managed their workers, the blacks, throwing them away to the corner and not going near them and not talking to them. Those were not people that were normal, by the way. No people of merit left their home to come and become a settler. So the people who gave us a way to behave with one another, they were rejects. That's why in the central bank, we put a lot of emphasis on treating the entire staff as one family members. The contribution of the sweeper is just as important as the contribution of the director. Each one is doing different assignment, but it's all leading to the same benefit for the institution. So don't create differences. So that's why in terms of salaries, we say that the staff must know what is in there for them. My driving force in coming to that particular institution was to make a difference. To make sure that, I've gotten the people to help me do what I'm supposed to do while I'm here. I couldn't do it alone. I knew I depend on people to help me accomplish. And I knew that, the reward that I can give to them is to respect them, to honor them, and to be open to them, and to be very fair. So I think when I came to the bank, I realized that it is important. Its success will by and large depend on the commitment of the staff to what the bank wants done. That commitment, you must somehow find a way to exploit and make it happen. And in my case, I immediately knew that number one, it's important for people, they are expected to come on time. Nobody should be coming to a place when others have already been there. Secondly, we said that, we must now a quid pro quo. We must tell the staff what it is in it for them. No, we told the staff, okay, fine. You are one of us, and we want you to always be very happy here. And we are going to be organizing a retreat. And all of you will be invited to the retreat. It will be paid for. Come with the others. Let's be together on that particular, so that we can bond. And because we belong to one particular organization. It did not cost a lot of money to do that. And then the third one was to say, we must be competitive in this environment. We cannot allow another organization doing what we are doing be paying differently than us. Let's do a survey and see what the competencies in other places are giving compared to what we are giving, and adjust very quickly. As the bank is moving forward, it should not forget that it is a bank because of the people that are in it. The most important resource for an institution like the central bank is the people that are working in that institution. The attention of the bosses of an institution like the central bank must never fail to understand. Even their own performance depends on the performance of the people that are in that particular place. So respect emoluments, make sure that they are not delayed, make sure that people know when it is that they can get a promotion, and give the terms of that promotion what is required. Let's be transparent. I think the bank has already come a long way. No question about that. It has come a long way. Even when you look at Kenya, there are not many institutions which are respected, in the country as the central bank. If you talk anywhere and you ask people, they'll be telling, I wish I could go to work in the central bank. Why is the reason? It's because at least there is semblance of fairness and growth prospects in that particular place. Every institution should be like that. As you go forward, promote what you might call staff welfare, staff promotions, staff, and respond to them. And make it a place where people feel happy to walk in, and people where they feel happy to learn. I am a Kenyan by birth. I did not come from other places. I was born here, and I was born by people that are Kenyan also. We are beneficiaries of a country that God gave us, and that is really a great country. I know I've traveled in life to see places. I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Russia, I've been to China, I've been to all these countries. I've lived in America, in Europe. There is no place in all those countries I can find happiness the way I have found it here in Kenya, my own country. I wish the Central Bank of Kenya, an institution that is part and parcel of who I am, because I once was there twice, I came in, I may be one of the oldest, associate manager of the Central Bank. Because I came first, and I thank those who brought me first to that institution, in particular Duncan Degwa, the effort he put in place to make me part and parcel of the Central Bank, followed by Philip Degwa, worked very well with me. Those people, I am all and very grateful for those who finally worked with me, like Kotut. I worked with Kotut, I worked with Chesarem, I worked with Nyaga and Thuge. So I've been very happy and beneficiary of people that have grown under my wing, seeing them, coming to take responsibilities. And that is God's plan. That's very good, and I like that very, very much. And God may continue to bless us and be with us in every way.